Stand by alert. Death Star approaching. Estimated time to fire range.
I got a bad feeling about this.
Welcome, listeners, to episode 273 of the Skyhoppers podcast. I am one of your hosts, Ben, and I am joined by my lovely co-hosts, Eva and Cole.
Yeah.
I realized I was going to do
Shadow
another one.
virus.
I realized I hadn't done a weird one in like a very long time. So I'm like, I'm not due for a weird intro. I hope this is not somebody's first show, because if it is, we lost them. They're gone.
Well,
they're just like, oh, they're just like, oh, is that how that guy talks? I can't do that.
could you imagine the
or they're
whole
really into it.
That
Or
or
they're
they like
way
it too
too-
much.
yeah,
and-
or they're
in which
way
case we
too
don't
into it.
want them listening. Anyway.
Yeah. So if you're still here because you really liked that, turn off the podcast.
Oh God. Okay. Dakota will hopefully drop in at some point relatively soon. We don't know exactly what he's up to. Busy with food and domestic life, I think, is the general takeaway from what's going on over there. But hopefully he'll return, because this is something this week we're talking about something that I think Dakota would very much like to be a part of. But first, welcome back, Eva. It's been a minute since you've been on the podcast. The Ash episode, I think, was the last one you said.
The first Kenobi episode.
Oh my God.
Ash. Oh wait, how
Yeah.
many Kenobi episodes have we had?
Actually, not
It was like
6.
3.
Not 6. Yeah, we've only had like 3.
Yeah, the last one I was on was the one with Ash, and the last one I was on before that was, I think, 2 months before that episode. So,
You're back
hi.
now. You're back now.
For now.
Very busy down in Tennessee, clearly.
Yeah, it is election season, and I work at a newspaper, so when I have not been too busy with debates to be here, I have been sleeping.
Sleeping.
But today, we had our debate early, and I got a full night's sleep. Well, no, I didn't. I got some hours of sleep last night.
I was weird. I was sitting at my computer at work today, and my Discord dinged, and it was Eva saying, "Are we podcasting tonight?" And I was like, that is not who I expected to ask that question.
It's because I was like, can I make it? If the debate starts at 5 and it ends at 6, then I'm home by 7. I could be on the Skyhoppers tonight. And I was like, wow, this is so exciting.
Well, we're glad to have you back. Cole, thankfully, was what's the word I'm looking for? Thoughtful enough to remember to drop in last week that you and Dakota were both high on the last episode of Kenobi. Very thought it was good.
Yes.
But now you're here. Can you give us your basically the series as a whole, honestly. What is your, like, as abbreviated or not as unabbreviated as you'd like, just some thoughts on the show overall?
Anakin Skywalker.
I was gonna say there are definitely some parts I feel like really would have resonated with you strongly.
What else does a fella have to say? You know what I mean? Look, what, man. Obi-Wan didn't kill Anakin Skywalker. He did. Whoa, amazing. Pulled a Filoni, cracked that helmet open like an egg. Yeah, dude, amazing.
That is what he did.
Yeah, cracked it right open. Truly, the thing about Kenobi is every time I think about it, I'm like, that was so good that I'm a little bit overwhelmed with how good it was. There was one episode I wasn't super hot on, but now I can't remember which one it was. I think it was episode 4 maybe that I was like, oh, it's fine, but it's just kind of like mid.
Is episode 4 is the one within the no, or is it 5 where they're in the Fortress Inquisitorius?
No, 4 is the Inquisitorius.
Okay,
that was the one that I was like, this is not bad, but it's like not as good.
Which is, I mean, not to be nitpicky, that's never what you want to see out of what is at least supposed to be a limited series of 6 episodes. You know, you don't want to have one that's like, ooh, it was fine.
It was
anyway,
Rescue number 2.
Yeah.
We've discussed this at length already.
I wouldn't know. I don't listen to the show, and I'm not on it. I would be minding my little business at work or whatever, and check Discord and be like, Skyhopper's posted a new episode, and I'd be like, that's crazy. When did they record that? And I was just going like,
go back about my day.
Yep, I'm vibing. Yeah, I mean, overall, I honestly feel like I need to watch Kenobi again. But I mean, I loved it. So, I cried a lot at the last episode because it was all Anakin Skywalker being so sad.
Yeah.
No notes. Honestly, my only note was I think he could have been sadder. Which I just want him to be as sad as possible. So,
well,
I think it ruled. The whole fight between Obi-Wan and Vader, I think was awesome. I'm glad Obi-Wan Kenobi learned how to lift a bunch of rocks, I guess. That was a new thing he hasn't done before, was hold a bunch of rocks. So that was cool.
Lifting rocks.
Yeah. Pulling a real Rey Skywalker move there, but
Rey Kenobi?
I guess he came first.
It looked a little bit better than that one.
Yeah. I mean, I loved it.
Okay, cool. Obviously, we didn't expect like super detailed, in-depth notes. I'm glad you enjoyed it though. It was I think, especially towards the end, where like Cole even cynical Cole had come around on it by the end and thought the end of it was good.
It's because Anakin had his head cracked open like an egg, because that was a good moment.
It was a good moment.
Maybe not because of I was gonna say maybe not because of that, but
look, I like that part. Okay, like I know Filoni did it in Rebels first, whatever, but Filoni didn't have the voice mix with Hayden Christensen himself, so truly that's just irrelevant now. It's like,
sorry, Matt Lanter.
You crack open a Darth Vader helmet and you're like, here's half an Anakin voice that's actually Hayden Christensen, and here's half a Darth Vader voice, and I was like, uh-oh, the waterfalls are coming, baby. So
I
rocked.
I've watched the finale twice now. The few little things I didn't like as much, really, just as I expected, kind of smoothed themselves out. I think I just had, I was hyper focused the first time I watched it. So yeah, I'm still right there with you. I think it was very good. I think
I will say my only, and I talked about this in our Discord, other than episode 4 being like, which wasn't even like a bad whatever, like I just wasn't as into it, I still liked the episode a lot. The only complaint I have with the series, other than what Cole and I have talked about, of like every once in a while the like CGI depth of field, you're like, but that's kind of like a Star Wars TV in general problem, so not unique to Kenobi. But I still am not too hot on how they bridged episode 5 and 6 with Reva and the Bail hologram and going to Tatooine. Like, the resolution on Tatooine I thought was good, and I liked that. But Reva being stabbed through the stomach with a lightsaber, and then picking up the Bail Organa hologram and being like, oh, and then like I was just like, this is such a it felt like such a really thin plot device, that for that to be the way that it all ended, I was kind of like, I don't know, and they kind of explained it in episode 6, like her motivations for that, but at the time at the end of episode 5, it's like, well, so this guy stabs her through the stomach, and she like sees a hologram, and she's like, now I'm gonna go to Tatooine and kill a random kid because I found this hologram. Like, I don't know, it was just very thin to me. But
that is, upon rewatch, that is one of the weakest parts of the entire series. Not untenable, but definitely kind of flimsy.
Yeah.
But
I feel like there's a couple of episodes that do that will have like thin connective tissue between them. Same thing at the end of episode 3 when Leia gets recaptured. That's all handled
Yeah.
pretty poorly.
Well, there was Star Wars. I believe it was Star Wars Newsnet. I'm not on Twitter anymore, but I rediscovered the joy of the RSS feed, so I'm still getting my news updates. Thankfully, Star Wars Newsnet, I believe, posted an article that might have been sourced from somewhere else. So I apologize if this is not the primary source. With a lot of quotes from someone. The name escapes me. I'm terrible for that. A guy who worked on Kenobi as a film. He's credited in, like, the Kenobi movie existed. Like, at one point that project existed. That's been confirmed. This guy's credited in the
Yeah, I saw on IGN, I think, that it was supposed to be a 3-movie trilogy at first.
Yeah, like, he had ideas for a trilogy. So it's like, if this is the first movie, this is the first movie. The series, it was what the first movie was supposed to be. So the first movie, like, I think a lot of his characters were there. But you're stretching a 2.5 hour movie out into, a full season.
Episode. Yeah.
Right. And I'm not trying to say that's, like, obviously these are professional storytellers. These are professionals. They work and operate at a very high level. I'm not trying to make excuses for them, but I could see how some things might not end up being as convincing as they might have wanted them to be.
And
whenever you're trying to make,
basically confirmed the plot leak, like the original version of it is exactly what he described it happened.
Really?
I was like, oh yeah, there's the confirmation. So that was like basically like an early plot synopsis.
Wow.
That got put
Okay.
out. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. Like, I mean, I write for a living and I write every day, but my articles are like 1,000 words. And if you told me to write a book about an article I wrote, I'd be like, this book's going to be terrible. So I get it. But
yeah.
but the seams are showing a little bit there.
Sure.
So,
sure.
But overall, I mean, truly that really is my biggest complaint, is that I think the link between 5 and 6, specifically with Reva and Luke and the hologram, is not strong. But also, how can I complain when she carries a Luke's body back to the homestead in the exact same position that Shmi Skywalker's dead body is in Attack of the Clones? Like, I got so many prequel notes, you guys. You have no idea.
I mean, yeah, you finally got some people who did respect them. You know, like...
My friend there. Brooklyn was here, who I am friends with through Star Wars Twitter, even though we basically never talk about Star Wars. Was here when the finale happened, and so like the first thing I did was she woke me up on Wednesday and was like, it's time, and I was like, yes sir. And the whole time that we were watching it, about every 5 minutes I'd be like, this is a specific reference to this moment in the prequels, and she was like, okay, I am so happy for you, but it's a little concerning that you can like do that. And I was like, yeah.
You can pick that out like that. You're not a true Star Wars, this is the most gatekeepy thing I'll ever say, you're not a true Star Wars fan until you've concerned somebody with your level of fandom.
Well, and the thing is like, it's concerning that I concerned her because we met through Star Wars Twitter, so she's also on like the same level. It's just that my specific hyper fixation is those 3 movies, and since it's Kenobi and Anakin's back and whatever, there's a lot of references to that, so I'd be like, I know everything that's happening, this camera angle and that camera angle and this body position, and it's like, nobody cares about this but me, but I was having a great time.
I'm glad. I mean, we all knew you were gonna love it. I think the show needed more sand, but that's just me.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, I think
there's the John Jackson Miller thing where he was like, can't believe Kenobi read my book. It'd be great if they just did that as a TV show. I'd be down. Yeah. And I was like, yeah.
Yes, so would we. Yeah, that's very cool. Very cool. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Speaking of books, I don't think we have any news for this week, correct? Not a lot going on?
I don't think so. I'll double check, though.
Okay, yeah, Cole's gonna double check, but I really think it's been pretty quiet all in all. Star Wars Celebration London tickets are going on sale. Yesterday, if you're hearing this in the...
I am not purchasing one because I am poor.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, not only is it overseas travel, but it's not
right
like
now.
just...
I have not even had time to think about starting to save to buy a ticket. So
yeah, exactly. It's like a month after The old one, which is the old one, the last
The
one,
old
this year's
one.
celebration. Yeah. So it's like that's what they've always done. Like I understand it. But yeah, it just makes it even less feasible because there are people who are, not me, but like people of a certain level of means who are like, I'm gonna shoot first and ask questions later. Like I'm gonna buy the badge and I'm gonna make everything work after that. And it's like,
Yeah.
cool. I'm glad that people can do that. It's like financially I'm not in a spot where I want to do that and then be locked into something like that. But kind of a bummer because I think it'd be it'd be fun for sure. But we'll get them next time. We'll get them next time, fam.
Monday. But
yeah, I
in
think
my head, I'm like, this doesn't count as breaking my streak because it's not within the continental
Exactly.
United States.
I'm in the same boat. We both have been to every celebration for the last 3 in the continental U.S.
Yeah. So that's the streak that I'm gonna keep in my head.
The scary thing is it's turning into something of a second Gen Con for me. Whereas it's like Gen Con I go every year, but it's so easy. The badge is like 120 all told at the end of the day, which is a lot of money. But it's like I stay with my friend. It's an hour from home. There are no significant arrangements that need to be made. And it's like, well, if I'm doing this celebration thing every other year or whatever, like, my God, it's like it's a lot. But anyway, that's the only big news that I saw. Not a lot. I mean,
There was a very minor movie update for Star Wars. Taika Waititi did the interview with the Wrap, and apparently the takeaway from the interview was that he hasn't even figured out the story yet, so the movie's not going to be shooting this year, so there's no way that movie's coming out in 2023, so...
Well, it's like, at least...
Does anyone believe we'll ever see a Star Wars movie again?
No. The good thing is, what does give me hope about that, though, is that he is able to talk about it openly and say, like, no, I haven't finished the story. You know what I mean? It's not like, he didn't evade the question. So it's like, it's probably still moving forward. We also learned that he's directing 3 episodes, or did I conflate the 3? He's directing some episodes of Mando season 3.
I think there was even some confusion on that, wherein there was an article saying he was directing an episode for season 3, but then later changed it saying it was just acting in it. So I don't understand how that would work either. So
yeah, I was gonna say interesting.
So I think we don't know yet.
Okay.
He might be involved in the next season of Mandalorian. We'll see.
See,
He's actually been recast as Gina Carano.
He is Cara Dune.
They just put him in a wig and give him a little tattoo. They're like, do whatever you think Cara Dune would do right now.
I mean, one thing, a few weeks ago, there was this article on IGN that looks like Luke in our Discord linked to, that he gave an interview, and I remember reading this. He gave an interview talking about how he feels like, the universe is too small if it's all stuck around the same people, so he's going to be telling stories about new characters, presumably in a new time. I guess he didn't say a new time period. Maybe he did. It was literally 2 weeks ago that this article came out. But so, I mean, we kind of had an assumption there, but that's pretty cool. That's going to be something different. It makes me wonder if they will consider going back to a Star Wars story without a Star Wars story. If they'll go back to doing just one-off movies where it's just this is a cool movie, we had this idea.
I mean, I feel like they could keep a Star Wars story branding, because sure, Solo didn't do well, but Rogue One did so well that it's it kind of brings balance to the
no consensus yet. You have to do one more to see if it actually works, right?
But you got to remember, it's possible that Kathleen Kennedy saw Solo's performance as obviously it's putting a Star Wars story at the end of this movie. It's in title that doomed it. We can't do that again.
And that's why we'll never recast anybody. Anyway, here's Kenobi, the TV show.
Soul's got his head in his hands, oh my God.
The real takeaway they should have had from Solo is the reason it failed is because it doesn't start in space like Star Wars movies supposed to do.
I agree.
That's the problem. People watch that movie, like, they were in the theater watching it, it starts, they're like, it's not in space. And they walked out and demanded a refund. And that's why it didn't make as much money.
Yeah, I agree.
Well,
Also, I don't know
news.
what it was, but Cole, the other day I read something about hyperspace and Star Wars, and I got mad about it, and I don't remember the specifics, but I needed you to know that
Thank you.
I have been brainwashed, and you guys kind of suck, but thank you for making me think about that, I guess.
It's only going to get worse. If you continue to listen to Abro Skywalkers, it will only get worse.
Actually, I remember what it was. It was Kenobi.
Oh, yeah.
It was Kenobi when he's like, I'm just on Tatooine now, and I was like, no!
Oh, yeah. Ugh.
I immediately had a gut reaction of, that's not how it works! And then I went,
Well,
where's Cole?
Well, it's just funny because we talked about that last week, too. As
a shoulder being like, it's not that right.
I love that even when I'm not on the show, you still are. All my thoughts are still being conveyed to the audience through the fact that we're all the same.
Yeah, we're kind of.
Except for Dakota, who really keeps us humble.
Dakota does keep us humble, and it's
Yeah.
unfortunate that he has confirmed he's not going to be here this evening.
Oh, man.
Because now what? We're just going to run completely off the rails. But yeah, I don't know. If you're, like I said, if you're listening to Abro Skywalkers, that will get worse as we kind of find our stride on that show and start
Ben,
getting
I
into
love
the
you to
2-hour
death,
episodes.
but the more that you're like, oh man, these episodes are too long, and it's like an hour and a half, I'm like, God, past Ben, I love you, but shut up, dude.
It was bad. I think it was last week. We were
on purpose, I think.
Yeah.
I did it last week, and the episode was literally 2 hours and 5 minutes long, and we hadn't even quite started wrapping up yet. And I'm just like, I really need to stop. I do need to stop commenting on it because it's starting to look really embarrassing because people do listen to the backlog of the podcast. I know people do listen to the backlog and do see that's like, wow, this episode. Oh my god, this episode's so long. An hour and 30. They look at the most recent episode, like 2:05, and it's like,
one more absolute roast of Ben before we move on to tonight's topic of the show. But there was the last Abro Skywalkers episode I listened to. At the beginning, Ben was like, we got reader mail from someone who listens named Sarah, and she said that she was fine with the longer episodes. So we're going to give that a try. And then after about an hour and 45 minutes, you started apologizing to Sarah, saying that you hoped it wasn't too long because you weren't expecting it to be that much longer than an hour. And I was just sitting there losing my mind in the car.
I think anyone who knows me personally is like, yeah, that tracks.
Yeah.
I believe that.
I was losing it. So that's my last public roast of Ben in 2019.
That's all right. I've had significantly worse public roasts before. But I mean, speaking of, you're listening to Abro Skywalkers because that is a show that do you ever listen to that show as you're reading, or do you usually do it as like a debrief? I guess you're
the intent is as I read. However, that rarely ends up happening because I forget. So I was pretty good about it when I read the first Han Solo book of like reading the chapters and listening to your episode. Heir to the Empire, I think I did not realize that you guys had done Heir to the Empire until I was like almost done with the book, and I was like, oh, I guess I should have been listening to this. So I downloaded all of the episodes, listened to the first one, finished the book, forgot about it for like 2 weeks, and then on my drive to work this morning, I was looking at what I had downloaded, and I went, oh yeah, Ben and Cole did Heir to the Empire. I guess I should listen to that. So the intent is as I'm reading. That has only ever worked out for me once, and it was the first time that I read a book that you guys had. So
that's fine. I'm just curious. I was just curious, but because right now I know that you are binging, our episodes on Heir to the Empire. Because that is,
but it is kind of nice now, honestly, doing it afterwards because I get a little like reminder of what happened.
Right, sure.
Because like I really liked the book, but I also have a horrible memory. So if you ask me to recount like what happened in the book, I would be able to give you like 4 major events that I specifically liked, and nothing else in the book because I just don't remember anything ever.
Right.
But now I'm like, oh yeah, that did happen, huh? Like. Interesting. I forgot about that.
Really, all that matters is that when you read another book later, you're like, oh, I remember that from Heir of the Empire now. You know, like you don't have to have an encyclopedic knowledge.
The thing is like when I see a reference to it, I will remember. But if you're just like,
exactly,
hey, what's the plot of Rebel Dawn? I'm like, I don't know. Han Solo's in it. Something happened.
So you recently finished Heir to the Empire, and there is currently a review, 100 words or less, on skyhopperspodcast.com that you read, that you wrote. That was very nice. I like how you phrased it. Something, I'm paraphrasing.
I'm pulling it up. I don't remember what I wrote.
Something about being concerned that the book would live up to the hype, whether or not it would, and then you read it and decided that
it did.
Okay, good. I was gonna say, finish my sentence. Can you see what I'm doing here?
Yeah.
So you liked it.
Yeah. I don't understand Dakota's message to our Discord, but
Dakota, Ducks in a Stack is a house in Bloomington where I am playing a show on July 10th, and Dakota has, instead of sending me a DM, put it in our group chat and has derailed the entire podcast.
Okay, well, moving on, Dakota. I'm trying to talk about Thrawn right now. Yeah, I don't remember what I was saying because I got distracted by Dakota in a stack, but yeah, Heir of the Empire ruled. I was really worried that I would start it and be like, oh yeah, this is good, but I'm gonna have to tell Ben and Cole that it doesn't live up to the hype when you read it for the first time at like 24 or whatever. No, I was hooked. Enough to the point where I was like, I liked the first canon book, the first canon Thrawn book. And I liked Heir to the Empire enough that I was like, you know, in retrospect, still a good book, but dang, I was really missing out.
Right.
So.
Well, it's just like, it's got it all. I mean, it's got this Timothy Zahn. Books is kind of the main topic of our podcast tonight, in case you were unaware. There's been a lot of Star Wars publishing that we have not really touched on at all in the last few months. A lot of stuff's come out. And per
usual, I'm stuck in the 1990s, way behind everybody else. So
yeah, I mean, that's fine. You're talking to two people who
I'm catching up.
Are very predates all of us.
Yeah.
But it's got a Timothy Zahn spin on it, and it's very clear, especially if you're like, as Cole has told me, where it's like there's been a couple times where he's like, oh yeah, this is very much a Tim Zahn thing. But at its core, it's more Star Wars. You know, it's like it's got that same. It follows the structure of the movies. It's just a little more in depth. The characters are a little smarter, because that's what Tim Zahn does. But all in all, yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it, because Cole and I, of course, think it's like, you know, up there as like the holy grail of Star Wars books. Maybe not necessarily my personal favorite, but in terms of just balance on the whole, it's definitely one of the best.
Well, and I was thrilled to get to it too, because as we all know, I have a little notebook. It sits on my table over there at all moments for when I finish a Star Wars book, and I open it and I go, this is what the Skyhoppers podcast told me to read next. Because I am going to read the new Jedi Order. I'm prepared at all moments in case I finish a Star Wars book. But so when I read Allegiance, I was like, Mara Jade rules. And then I have not read a book with her since. And so I was just glad to get back to her hating Luke Skywalker, not having a good day. I don't think she's ever smiled in her life up to this point. I love it for her. I know she's going to be happy and married to Luke Skywalker at one point. I don't know when that's going to happen. In the meantime, she's really upset, and I'm so supportive of her.
That's a really great point. I don't know that she had smiled in her life to that point.
And the whole time I think it's Allegiance or Allegiant, something like that. Another Timothy Zahn book that I read like years ago. Allegiance. The whole time in that, she's like, I'm the Emperor's hand, and I'm mad. And I'm like, you go, girl. And then in this one, she's like, I'm no longer the Emperor's hand, and I'm mad. And I was like, yeah! So, I adore her with my whole heart.
Yeah, I mean, again, you're preaching to the choir. Cole and I have just like...
I literally just got done making an action figure of her, so I mean, you know.
Yeah, like, she's one of the greats, and I'm so thrilled that you liked Heir to the Empire. So, Have you started another Star Wars book yet, or are you reading something else? Are you not reading? What are you doing?
I'm currently torn in true me fashion. I'm halfway through Pride and Prejudice because I've never read it.
Sure, respectable.
I'm halfway through a book written by a journalist about the O.J. Simpson trial. Why not?
Okay, of course.
And then I'm also halfway through Brotherhood, which I have not finished, but I'm halfway through it. I read half of it in like one night, got really busy, haven't touched it in 2 weeks. But one day I will return because Anakin Skywalker raced a silly little ship in that book, and I love it.
Okay, so Cole, I am correct in assuming you have not touched Brotherhood yet?
That is correct.
I do think, I will say, I'm going to call you out. I do think it's a little criminal. I think you'll like it. I really do think you'll like this one a lot.
I like it too.
It's very good. Now, so obviously, spoilers aside, no spoilers because you haven't finished it. Eva and Cole hasn't read it at all. Not that he cares, I guess, but anyway.
Cole loves spoilers.
I mean, you said you read it. You said you read a bunch of it in one sitting.
Yeah.
What was was that just like you got in a flow state, or was it like, I can't pull myself away, I really enjoy this is really good? What do you think?
I was like,
okay.
I was like, it was after work, and I had Dungeons and Dragons on Zoom later in the evening, and I was like, I'm sick of staring at screens, but I like need to occupy my time before this starts. So I was like, I'll start reading Brotherhood. Read it for an hour and a half, and was like, I'm really mad that I have to go to D&D right now, because I want to read this book. Went to D&D, told them all that I was really mad because I wanted to be reading a Star Wars book, played my little game. Immediately logged off my computer and started reading it again. So, cool. Spoiler, not like light spoilers, I guess, if you really care, but it's got everything. It's got Anakin and his little ships. It's got Padme being Padme. It's got Obi-Wan being sad and scared and angry.
It's got
and
lips.
angsty.
It's got lips.
And it's got those guys. It's got those guys. And more than that, it's got those guys going through a political and social and economic trauma on their little planet, on their little home planet. They live there. Their buildings are collapsing. They're having a bad time. One of them has a sniper rifle. I'm like, this rocks.
She's great.
Yeah.
She is.
Mike Chen gave me a Nemoidian with a sniper rifle. What else am I supposed to? I could die tomorrow and I'd be like, that's fine. I don't even know how it ends. I just need to know that she's out there.
It's Mike Chen, I think, walked the line of writing a book that is unabashedly a new canon style story that follows like this kind of the structure and the feeling of a Legends novel, like later Legends. And we're not talking like Bantam era here, but like, it's got that feel to it, while simultaneously
it's got real like a Noodle Scooter Hill energy, but like in a good way.
But in a good way, yeah, like not that at all. But I see what you're saying.
Thank you.
But then also developing characters we know, giving us new characters, developing characters we know in an incredible way, giving us new characters, and laying the groundwork for something that I actually think could be super interesting later on that I'm not going to talk about, but just very, very minor thing that could spin off into its own thing at some point in the future. And I have, this might not surprise anybody because I read a lot of Star Wars books. Mike Chen had not written one prior to Brotherhood. I'd never read anything before this. I love the guy. I think this book's incredible. He seemed because Cole, we saw him speak at that publishing panel at Celebration. He seemed so excited to have written a Star Wars book. It's just like, I'm always saying, it's like, if you are a creator in Star Wars and you can convince me that you feel strongly about what you're doing, and like, even if I don't agree with what you're doing entirely, I will respect it. Well, he's got both. He feels strongly about what he's doing. He wants to write a great Star Wars book, and he succeeded. I think he succeeded. I think it's truly one of the best canon books there is. And
what I love about it is that, like, not in the story's the exact same, because obviously it's not, but it feels like I'm reading The Phantom Menace in a way, where it's like, there's this serious stuff going on, and like super serious political stuff, but the way that it's written is still kind of like light in a way. It's like they're dealing with bad stuff, but in the way that the Phantom Menace deals with really bad stuff, but it's disguised under like a movie that's really fun to watch and fun to experience, even though the whole point of it is like taxation and a planet being taken over and the Gungans are being enslaved, like stuff like that. It's like that's how it feels. It's like it feels like I'm reading the Phantom Menace. Like it to me, it has almost that exact same vibe, which is why I have been liking it so much, because I'm like, okay, yeah, this guy's having a panic attack because he's like, what's the future of the Jedi? But then also Anakin's sneaking off to have a date with his secret wife to go race a speeder. And it's like, you know, you can be worried about the political future and also maybe ride a bicycle every once in a while. It's okay.
No, it's got a lot of moments like that that are fun. It's like I laughed out loud at this book a couple of times. I can't recommend it highly enough if you've not read it. My co-hosts need to finish it. Dakota hasn't finished it either. Dakota hasn't finished it yet either, I think.
I don't think so. I think they said that earlier today.
It's a bummer.
Well,
but
the problem now is that that's there, and also Shadow of the Sith is there.
Okay, I guess we can. Not yet, because I want to touch it. I actually really wish Dakota was here for this portion of the show. So let it go on record that I said I wish Dakota is here. Hopefully that makes up for all the times. Hopefully that makes up for all the times that I've just completely forgotten to mention that he's not here.
It doesn't, but thank you for trying.
Anyway, but because I finished Queen's Hope last night. I finished that one, and I've been and I'm not going to spoil anything. Mike Chen said that, and maybe E.K. Johnston too at Celebration. Definitely Mike Chen mentioned that Queen's Hope is kind of Queen's Hope and Brotherhood are kind of companions to one another, and it's definitely not like, oh, you've got to read one to understand the other. It's nothing like that, and I was concerned about that too, because of course I'm all about the continuity. So whenever he said that, I'm like, which one do I read first? Mike, which one do I read first? Doesn't matter. But they definitely work together very nicely. I've been a huge proponent of those books on the podcast and pretty much everywhere. I think Queen's Shadow and Queen's Peril, both very good, very quick reads, but very good. Queen's Hope, still quite good. Weirdly enough, I think my least favorite of the three. I feel like we didn't get my big picture review without spoiling anything. I feel like we kind of didn't get as much on the emotional side of things as I would have liked. I felt like a lot of what was happening was very political, which makes sense. It takes place at the beginning of the Clone Wars. But what I loved about the other two were the relationships with the handmaidens and Padme and all of that. And I felt like that emotional core wasn't quite there as strongly. Still there, just not quite there as strongly. I'm just not as invested in Anakin and Padme, I guess, as I am with Padme and her handmaidens, her friends. I will say the last 10, 15 pages though, heartbreaking. And that's when the book
only 10 to 15 pages.
That's what, and again,
Dear
of course,
Lord, what happened?
I'm not trying to dunk at all. The book is emotional and good through the whole thing, but it's in those last few pages, it really is kind of a gut punch. Something that it was one of those like, oh God, I care about this. I didn't realize I cared about this. But so it was pretty intense last night when I was reading it, but it's still quite good, just a little more intriguey than I had expected from the other two and what I hoped, but definitely still worth your time 100%, especially as a companion to Brotherhood, because it's clear that E.K. Johnston also cares very much about what she's writing.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. So
I was just gonna say that I think it's funny, the whole caring about Padme and the handmaidens and not so much Padme and Anakin, because even though I am legally obligated to be like Padme and Anakin, I also feel the same way, especially I always kind of feel the same way, but in Brotherhood I definitely feel the same way, where when Anakin and Padme are together, I'm like, I don't really care about them holding hands or whatever, but when they're like, ooh, let's start a political debate on the economy in Coruscant. I'm like, yeah, but then they're like, oh, you're my wife, let's do romantic stuff. I'm like, stop it, go back to talking about the politics.
Stop. You're trying to tease the fact that he's a fascist out of him. Keep going.
I'm like, I don't want to. I'm like, I don't want to see your relationship because I want to see you guys kissing. I want to see your relationship because I want to see you guys politically not agreeing with each other. Come on.
Yeah, it's like, show me that your relationship is doomed to fail.
Foreshadowing.
No, I don't know. I'm kind of right
at the end of it. What happens to Anakin about it? Spoilers.
There is a little bit of that with Anakin and Padme, and I think actually in Queen's Hope she does a good job of contextualizing their relationship.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, Sabe is kind of key to that. You can tell that E.K. Johnston loves writing Sabe with good reason. She's a great character, but it's just one of those things too where it's like I'm going to see her in the movie and be like the Leonardo DiCaprio pointing meme, like, oh, it's Sabe. I know so much about her now. Not to mention her appearance in the Vader comics. I think it's Greg Pak's Vader comic.
Yeah,
I can't remember, but
because when I read that one, I only had the single issues, and then I got to the comic. I only had like half of the single issues, and I got to the one where they're like, here she is, and Darth Vader was like, Padme, and then the comic ended, and I was like, I don't have the next one yet. What the heck?
Yeah.
So that was a personal attack on me, and that was very hurtful. But the comics are really good. After you get past that, make sure you have all the issues at once, otherwise you'll be really hurt.
Cole, you mentioned this earlier. I recently picked up, or recently as in 10 hours ago, roughly, picked up my copy. Do you have your copy of Shadow of the Sith?
I do.
That book is significantly larger than I expected it to be. The book is like 460 pages.
Whoa.
I did not expect it to be that long. Cole, have you touched it at all? Oh, sorry, Eva, go ahead, and then I'll...
Oh, I was just going to say, I have no context really for the book, except I saw Jeff on Twitter today saying that it did add something about Corran Horn. I don't know.
What?
I don't know.
What?
Not that he was mentioned specifically, but that there was a... Let me find it. Except now I'm blanking on what...
You're gonna hurt both of us if you're not right. You understand? Like, if this is a meme...
Here's the thing, though, is I can't remember
we will boot you.
Twitter name is. What's Jeff's Twitter account? Keep going without me. I'll think about it.
Okay, anyway.
I literally cannot think of what his Twitter account is to look up the tweet.
Yeah, so anyway, Cole, you have not touched it yet.
I mean, I touched it when I bought it at Barnes & Noble, but I have not read it yet.
I kind of flipped through it, which is not something I normally do. Because, it's like, it's a novel, it's meant to be read sequentially. But I, like, read a couple, like, as you do, just, like, a couple beginnings of chapters. And I was like... whatever. I've done it. I'm going through it, and I was like, this takes place at a weird spot in the time, or a kind of an unusual spot in the timeline. The Empire is cooling off. Luke and Lando go off on an adventure. This sounds kind of like a Legends book. This sounds kind of like a Legends book a little bit.
A Legends book?
And there's like a bunch of weird names of planets, and I'm like, this sounds like a Legends book. So I, not getting my hopes up too high, or higher than they already are, if I'm being entirely honest, because I am very excited for this.
I just sent you both the tweet that Jeff quote tweeted when he was talking about this. So.
Okay. It's not specifically Corran Horn, but it does canonize a ship known as the Errant Venture, which is intrinsically related to Corran Horn.
I swear they're setting up the pieces here.
They really are.
I think I said it on Upper Skywalkers that it's hilarious to me that Corran Horn has more live-action appearances than Cad Bane. It's hilarious.
Corran Horn, a pilot. That's so sick.
It's like 4 episodes of a TV show.
I know. But anyway, Cole, do you think you'll pick it up anytime soon? I mean, obviously you've got quite the backlog. It sounds like.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like I need to pick up something and start reading it. It needs to happen. And now it's like, which one? What do I pick up? I feel like I really have to finish Into the Dark. I'm like not 3/4 of the way through that one, so that needs to happen.
And that's one of those, like, I think if you one more good, especially with as quickly as you seem to read, one more good push and you'll get through that one. Now that's actually another question I meant to ask. That's another thing I meant to ask you. You picked up Brotherhood, you picked up Shadow of the Sith. Are you picking up all the adult novels as they come out?
Oh yes, I buy them all, like day one, basically.
That sounds incredibly overwhelming because I know how kind of behind you are in
I
terms
am
of canon reading.
Very behind.
So you've got all these. You're just staring at this wall of books that
I'm like literally. I'm like looking off to the side here. This is my canon shelf, and it's like there's a lot there.
Yeah, I imagine.
Like, the new Thrawn book came out, however long ago, and I read that in like 3 days. So
that's the well, and that's the thing. I mean, I get it. I think it's hard because you don't want to sound like a Bring Back Legends or not saying. I'm saying in general, not speaking specifically to you.
Cole's like, well, I don't know.
You know what I mean? You can want Legends to come back without being a Bring Back Legends or. Those two things are not necessarily one and the same, but it's just like I have to imagine, Cole, like I do feel like on some level, this is me ascribing things to you, so tell me if I'm wrong or if you think I'm wrong. I feel like on some level, for as much as I think we have always loved Star Wars in like I'm not going to try to quantify it, but I feel like the ways we've loved Star Wars have always been a little bit different. So I could kind of understand as someone in your position, maybe, not being a dick about it, but feeling less invested in canon because it feels a little bit like the rug's been rubbed out from under you. So it's like, I'm not trying to say that's how you're feeling, but it's like, I think, in a very slightly different timeline, I could be in a similar position, just be like, just behind because it's just like, this is Star Wars, and I like a lot of the stuff I've read, but it's like it's not quite the same thing. It's not.
Yeah, no, that's definitely there. There's no denying that.
Yeah, but I'm not trying to judge you for it at all. I think it's totally valid. It's just one of those like. It's frustrating for me because there's so many books that I want you to read so we can talk about them because they're good. But it's like I get it. It's like and plus you have a voracious media consumption schedule, and maybe there's just not always time for reading.
Yeah,
there are sci-fi.
The thing is, I get on a kick for something, and like right now, my kick is I'm making custom action figures.
Custom Star Wars action figures. You're just showing your love in a different way.
I've made like most of the main characters from the Empire. I made Mara Jade, Talon Card, Gilad Paleon, Joruus Sabaoth.
I've seen them. They're all fantastic. They are all fantastic.
Like, that's what I'm doing right now. So it's like, yeah. And then I'll be on a TV show kick, and it's like, oh, that's all I'm doing with my free time.
I mean, I understand that completely. It's just one of those things where it's like I've talked about this. I've built this trap for myself. You know how like when Chirrut tells Cassian that he takes his cage with him, where he takes his cell with him wherever he goes. That's how I feel about this 265-day reading streak that I've got. Like I just feel like I have to read every day. I have to read every day at this point, and I can't let that die. Honestly, I mean, it's working. But see, like rarely do I, it's Star Wars, so rarely do I sit down and go, oh, I really don't want to read this. But it's like, I don't know. Anyway, there's plenty of good Star Wars out there. I'm hyped for Shadow of the Sith. Cole, I hope that's one you jump into soon because
What would you recommend? If you were going to recommend one.
It's hard because on premise alone, I want
to
get
out your little notebook, Cole.
on premise alone, I want to recommend Shadow of the Sith because I feel like that is going to be the one that is up our alley. That is going to be the one with a lot of great connective
It's got something going for it that nothing else is going to have. It's like it literally starts with a quote from Revenge of the Sith.
It does. It does.
Adam Christopher is
it-
like my hero.
Yeah,
Is
it
it
does.
War?
No, not
No.
War. It's from the novelization.
From the novelization specifically.
Yeah,
So it's
'Cause Adam
Matthew
Christopher is
Stover.
a big fan.
right.
The amount of
Um,
Matthew Stover love that was at Celebration from those authors really warmed my heart.
It really
Yeah.
was not. Everyone was just like, I was like, no lie, I thought he might come out. I thought he might come out at that panel. I was like, they all seem too hype on this guy for him to not be here right now. But
And that makes it even more genuine because it wasn't them like plugging his appearance coming
No.
up. They were just like, his books are amazing.
he's got the best
This
Star
guy
Wars books.
rocks.
He's got the best Star Wars books. And honestly, from a certain point of view, he does. He does. He
Says
does.
the person who hasn't read Revenge of the Sith.
Okay, but I've read Shatterpoint and Traitor, and both of those books are freaking
And Shadows of
incredible.
Endor. You've read,
And
all,
Shadows
you've read
of
all
Endor.
3 of the other ones.
Now at this point, it's a bit. I can't read that book. I can't read the novelization. Why read the novelization? I've watched the movie. The looks, if you're not watching the video version of this podcast, you really should. The death glares that I'm getting. Cole, I actually, since we just finished up with Obi-Wan, I think I might recommend Brotherhood.
Mm.
I might. That's a pretty quick read too. It wasn't too terribly long. Shadows of the Sith is definitely
It's
longer.
not that long, and it's also super easy to read.
Yep.
Like, I am not... Like, I'm a good reader, but I'm a slow reader, because the ADHD means sometimes I read a sentence 4 times, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, that's what it said. If I could read, like, half the book in, like, a day and a half, then it's a
Sure.
pretty easy read, because
Yeah.
it takes me a hot minute.
It is. It's well written. It's interesting. It's interesting. Like, it was one of those books where sometimes especially with canon books. No, I'm not gonna make that distinction. It happens with Legends books too. I'm just being dishonest with myself. Sometimes I'm just like, okay, this is a good stopping point. Yeah, like everyone is. But then with Brotherhood, I found myself not thinking that very often. I was just like,
Yeah.
it's
Well, that's
11:30.
Brotherhood
I'll
got-
force myself to stop. I
Brotherhood
guess.
got dangerous for me because I'd be like, oh, I can read before bed. And then I'd be like, oh, I have a 12-hour day tomorrow. I'll just read like a chapter or 2, and then I'll go to bed. And I'd be like, okay, yeah, but like, what are the Nemoidians up to next? And it's like, I can't do that. I can't read Brotherhood. I have to read it during the daytime. Otherwise, when it's way too late, and I'm very tired at work.
And then just the Obi-Wan and Anakin stuff is great too. It really does feel like just on the whole, I feel like the canon prequel era storytelling has been really pretty phenomenal. I think pretty much all of those books that have come out in that time period have been incredible.
I'm constantly conflicted on the prequel representation in the Disney era because I think on screen it is rather abysmal except for Kenobi, but when it comes to the literature, oh man, it's so good.
You could tell all the authors love it. You know, they all love them. Now, Cole, do we count the Ascendancy trilogy as prequel era storytelling? Because that's, I guess, by time, yes, but in terms of actual, we'll say Star Wars content, even
Prequel
we'll say no.
content.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
He gets
sure.
his own prequels.
But anyway,
Ron
Cole,
can do whatever he wants. He's just out there.
just vibing.
He's out there vibing. He's a little freak.
Cole, I'm gonna say Brotherhood. I'm gonna say Brotherhood because that's the one I can recommend to you in good faith as being very good. There's a plot. I will say this. There's a plot line with Anakin that does not. I'm sorry. I guess this is kind of a spoiler for you, Eva, because I bet you could know what I'm talking about. There's a plot line with Anakin that is clearly. It looks like it's set up to be one thing. It does not go that way. That's what I will say. So don't worry.
Interesting.
Don't worry, and I'll be curious to see if you know what I'm talking about whenever you catch it. It's probably 50 or so pages in the book, so it's a little ways. But Cole, this is something I feel like I've talked a lot, but unfortunately Dakota's not here to break me up because Dakota is the other one who just voraciously reads Star Wars novels constantly. Dakota said that actually I pitched this topic earlier, and he said that has made no 000 progress, which is unfortunate. Because Cole and I finished True Colors on our Bro Skywalkers, and I would have loved to talk about 000 with Dakota.
True Colors.
I know he started listening to Rogue Squadron, which is, amazing as well. He also read Stories of Light and Dark, which is something that I wanted to check in with him on because I think I'm pretty much waiting for that one to show up on Thrift Books at a good price because I do think I want it just because I'm broken. But it's just one of those, like, I wish it was just different Clone Wars stories. If it was different Clone Wars stories or not retellings of stuff we'd already seen, I'd own it already. I just can't. It's kind of like you were talking after hours about you buying a Virtual Boy. It's kind of the same thing where it's just like, I don't know that I'll ever use this. And now, thankfully, I'll be spending much less money on this.
I don't know, like a $30 book versus whatever I'm up to these days. Like,
yeah,
it does have a couple of original stories in it. It's not mostly.
Yeah. Right, which is not inherently a bad thing. I want to be clear. But anyway, Dakota is someone I would have liked to checked in with this week. However, I talked about this. I don't know if I talked about it in After Hours or if I was on the show. Cole, I am still reading Legacy of the Force Betrayal. Things are a little weird.
Oh wait, I got new Star Wars books last week.
Oh, did you?
Well, new to me. I have to go look at what they are.
Yeah.
I know what one of them is, but they're on my table. Hang on.
Well, I'll do a little check-in then. Betrayal is the only, like, I've got all these Star Wars books. I realized I hadn't finished Queen's Hope. I was like 60 pages out from the end of Queen's Hope, and I was just like, oh, the only book I've read for the last week and a half is Betrayal. Like, I need to finish Queen's Hope. And that's why I finished it last night, because I just picked up Betrayal. I'm like, I'm going to read before bed. I picked up Betrayal. I'm like, oh, I have to finish Queen's Hope. I can't just keep reading Betrayal. And for those who might not know, that book is like, what, 40 years? 40 years after Star Wars Episode 4. Luke Skywalker is like borderline old man at this point. he's like literally 60 years old at this point in time, late 50s or something. The Solo kids are full-grown adults. Well, two of them anyway. Yes. Was that rude?
No, I knew about them. I knew about that.
Yeah.
I don't know the specifics or which one, but I know. Yes.
Well, I don't know. There's someone who's just like absolutely cursing me out right now because that was not cool. It's not cool. But it's a very different point in the timeline. Jason and Jaina are older than me again, so it does kind of feel right on that level. Because although one of these days they won't be, and it'll feel wrong again. But it's like I remember reading Young Jedi Knights and being like, "Oh yeah, these are young teenagers. Like they're so cool."
Yeah.
But anyway, Cole, our Betrayal discussion will of course continue as I progress further. There's just a lot of things happening on in the Corellian system right now, we'll say.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of things happening. I learned the true identity of a certain character recently.
Mm-hmm. Darth Vader?
No. Her name is... I hated that. I hated that. That was so dumb. Her name, and now that I see it, like seeing her name was just an anagram. It's like, okay, I should have seen that coming.
Well, have you been introduced to the tassels yet?
No, I don't think I have. Okay. See, that's what I love about Star Wars. There's always something new to learn. But Eva has returned with their books. What books did you get this last week?
So I went to McKay's, and I said,
you should.
I said, I'm not gonna spend that much money, but I'm gonna buy 2 Star Wars books, and I'm gonna buy the cheapest Star Wars books McKay's has I don't already own.
Oh Christ!
Number 1, $3.50, the True Set Bakura.
Hell yeah!
$2.50.
Yeah, it's not the good cover.
No, it's not a good cover. $2.50.
Yes.
The only, the Crystal Star.
Yes.
Well, that's got a great cover.
That does.
I have to take the stickers off still, but that's how you know I'm not lying, that it was $2.50.
They love to get Drew Struzan to do fantastic covers for Star Wars books that have not necessarily aged super well, depending on who you ask, because you'll notice my reaction was very positive for both of those books. Because
and the thing The thing I hate about it too is, this originally came from Crossville, Tennessee. There's a little stamp in the corner from the original bookstore.
I love you.
I was like, this copy looks old enough that I'm sure it's not a problem, but every time I see a copy of the Crystal Star, I immediately open it to make sure it's not whatever happened to Rogue Padre a few years ago.
I think it's one of the hardcovers.
Yeah, which is why I was like, this copy looks old and beat up, and it's a paperback, so I am 99.99% convinced that inside this book is the Crystal Star, but I still opened it just to make sure.
Those unaware, Rogue Padron was going to read the Crystal Star, was prepping to read the Crystal Star, and some people had ordered their copies from Amazon, and what happened was there was an issue with the publisher or the printer where they had swapped the covers of the Crystal Star with another book. I don't remember what it's called. Something about a witch, I think. Yeah,
it was like some fantasy book.
It was some fantasy book, exactly.
And then some people started buying what was supposed to be the fantasy book, and inside the fantasy book was the Crystal Star.
Crystal Star.
Yeah.
So funny.
Which is funny. Very funny. Very funny.
Enough so that it got the attention of like the Del Rey publishers and stuff, because Star Wars Twitter was going insane. So now every time I see a copy of the Crystal Star, this is the only time I've actually decided to buy it. But when I've been at stores before and I see a copy, I always open it just in case.
Yeah. Anyway, I think those are, unfortunately, neither of them are essential on your New Jedi Order journey, particularly.
That's okay.
That's because I honestly, Eva, I don't know if there's anyone in my life that I want to read the Crystal Star more than you.
Do I need any prior knowledge to anything?
No, you need to know that Han and Leia had kids at one point.
Actually, it's funny. You've actually read something that ties into it already, which is funny.
Oh God, what is it?
In a weird way.
What ties into
it? Does Ben know what I'm talking about?
I don't know that I do.
Do you remember Han's magician girlfriend?
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, what was something? Yeah.
I don't remember her name or anything. She originates in that book, and then was put in the Han Solo trilogy as like filling in her back.
Maybe after Brotherhood, I give the Crystal Star a little read, because I don't know why Ben specifically wants me to read it, but what I am taking from that is I'm either going to love this book because it's insane, or I'm going to hate this book because it's insane, and I hope it's both.
I think it's
we'll see.
I think it's mostly the first. I don't know that you'll love the book, but I think you will love how insane it is.
Probably. Well, that's the thing too about Star Wars, is that even when I'm like, objectively, this is not peak storytelling or whatever, as long as it's bizarre, like, well, Mortis aside, that one doesn't count, but like, even if there's storytelling that I don't particularly care for, if they're just like, we're just throwing a bunch of random stuff at you, I'm normally like, okay.
Crystal Star is interesting in that it gives some, there's a character who comes back in Young Jedi Knights. She shows up again later, and it's actually retconned that the main Imperial faction in the Crystal Star is the same Imperial faction in Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast. Mm-hmm. So it's like it's got a lot of connective tissue, some connections going out to different things. And all in all, I think I don't want to say don't have your hopes too high, because I feel like that really sets it up to be not a good book. But it's like, if you just go into it with an open mind, I think it's a perfectly fine book. It's a little weirder. A lot of people have said it's a Star Trek book with Star Wars on the cover, and characters, and it's like, I don't know how true that is, but it definitely feels a little more. It definitely feels a little more sci-fi in some ways, but it's good. There's some good stuff in it. Just you gotta be
power through.
Yep, Truce of Bakura. Indeed, I think Truce of Bakura is just legitimately good. Actually, that takes place.
Is Waru in the Crystal Star?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, because I've heard that name before, but I never knew what it was from.
Yep.
I also want to know. I want to ask you right now.
Oh, you know what? Okay, I just opened to a random page. Waru is mentioned in this sentence, and I can confirm that Han Solo's magician ex-girlfriend was named Zaveri.
That's
yeah,
it.
Zaveri. There it is.
Because it says, "Do you believe now that Waru is no fraud?" Zaveri asked, and I'm closing it now because I don't know the context of it, but we got some answers there.
And I also want to know how you pronounce this word that I'm putting in the Discord chat.
Oh God, Coruscant. I've never seen this word before, so I don't know.
It looks like a key smash. It literally looks like a key smash.
I don't remember this word.
It's the
crazy.
the word is CRSIEH. That is the name of the station, Cole, that orbits that like dying star that the whole thing takes place on.
I did not remember.
And
that.
I've talked about this. Emma, I feel like that book has the whole thing, I wish I could describe this quality of light to you that I feel like the whole book has. The book, it's described, the light coming off the star they're close to is described in such a way that it's like dream light. It's like you've fallen asleep in a room filled with fluorescent lights, and it's the whole book takes place in this glow that is the first second after you open your eyes in that bright room after being asleep, like deeply asleep.
That sounds horrific, but also deeply calming.
It's so that is the best way to describe that book. Horrific but deeply calming. It's so weird. And I hope someone understands what I'm talking about. It's got this weird fake light quality to it. But I don't know.
I still don't know how to pronounce that word. Cressy?
No, Cressy. I would say like Cressy. I would say Cressy. Cressy Station.
I feel like it's one of those ones that like the author be like give you the phonetic version of it and be like, that's
not right.
That is insane.
It's like me whenever I read what Sabaoth was supposed to be said, like I was like, what?
I literally can't even.
What are you talking about?
I literally can't even Google it because it just keeps trying to like change it to
something
other
else.
words.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things where it's like it feels like it's one of those things where people try to spell fish like GHOTI, and it's like, yeah, this is fish. Have you ever seen that?
No.
Oh, it's this thing where a teacher will like write GHOTI on a chalkboard, and it's like it spells fish. Exactly, goatee. But it spells
goatee.
It spells fish. It's like the GH in enough, the O in women, and the TI in information. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I hate it.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. I remember seeing that.
It says
School
goatee.
will be like, that's not right. It says goatee.
GHOTI also sounds like it would be a Star Wars name.
I know. Very easily. Goatee Rook.
Yeah, exactly.
He's already the
twin
goat.
Brother.
He's already the goat. We know he's the goat.
Yeah.
Okay. Books.
I think this podcast is over.
Star Wars books. I think this was a good conversation. I do wish Dakota could have been here. We'll touch on it again, hopefully a little more frequently, because we've got
Dakota and I are like ships passing in the night, where like
it kind of feels like that.
One of us can make it, and the other can't, and then the other makes it, and the other. I don't know. Well, I mean, I guess I spoke to Dakota on the episode Ash was on, but before that, I cannot think of the last time that I have been able to have a conversation with Dakota.
Dakota's been busy. It's unfortunate, but the podcast will be here for him when he is ready to return. Now, and I think probably just within probably a couple of weeks, I'm going to start Shadow of the Sith as soon as I finish Betrayal. And now that I don't, for a few weeks, I don't have an Umbrella Skywalker's book to read, so I can just power through Shadow of the Sith. So we'll do a check-in in a few weeks as well, I'm sure. Until that time, Cole, where can people find you on the internet, not in the internet? People don't live in.
I am in the internet. Yeah, I'm at Mando Wraith on the different social media platforms, and I'm on Umbrella Skywalker's, where we just covered True Colors, a Republic Commando novel, and we've covered lots of stuff. And who knows what we'll be covering next? I do.
You know.
At least it's in my hands.
Oh, that drives me insane. I want to know.
It's the Crystal Star.
It's not off the table.
I humbly request that Obroa Skywalkers do the Crystal Star specifically for me, and I will read along with you. I will do it.
Consider your request considered. We'll see.
Are we ready to slough off half of our listener base for a full book? There's like, I'm not doing this one.
I mean, we're gonna cover it at some point. You know?
We are gonna cover it at some point.
We're ending the podcast just in time for my dog to start barking.
I was gonna say, Yara says it's time for the podcast to be over. Eva, where are you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter at Eva Herinkova, EVAHERINKOVA. That's also my Instagram. You can find my dog here at my address.
Which is
and Tom, good luck. And you can also find me writing my thoughts on Star Wars books on the Skyhoppers podcast website.
Yeah.
Now that I'm done plugging myself, no, never mind. She's not done. I was like, now that I'm done plugging myself, she's gonna stop barking. But
whatever.
She's furious.
Had so much worse happen on this podcast than a dog barking. As if on cue. What I will plug, since I don't have anything to plug currently, Dakota I'm in the process of working on Dakota's special project that he's been working on for the website. I'm hoping that goes up. I'm hoping it's up by the time you're hearing this as a non-patron listener.
And if you're a patron listener, tough luck.
Tough luck. It will not be out probably by the time you're hearing it, but it could be. I don't know. It's one of those things. It just takes a little bit of time. Just got to put a little time into it, and it'll be done. But yeah, so I'm excited to have that up on the on the website. So I just caught up on adding all the photos. So the website looks good again. Go check it out. SkyhoppersPodcast.com. We've got our Patreon, patreon.com/SkyhoppersPodcast. For as little as $1 a month, you get an hour-long after hours where we keep asking, where's Dakota? You get, I also talk about Eva's new virtual boy that they will be acquiring at some point.
One day.
In the future.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to burn out my eyeballs.
You get access to our Discord. You get to hang out, talk about Star Wars, talk about whatever, honestly, whatever you want. I don't know if people will talk back to you, but you can say whatever you want. Not
within reason. I think within reason,
yeah.
I was gonna say, I can say it, get rid of you. But...
You can say it, but if you get nasty in there, I might be blocking and kicking some people.
There are 4 people in that Discord with a very mighty banhammer, and between the
5,
4 of us,
but Ash never checks it.
That's true. I guess you're right. I think between the 5 of us, we have 24-hour coverage. I feel like I'm tempting fate. We're done. Nobody has anything else to add. So this is the Skyhoppers podcast signing off.
Somebody get this big walking carpet out of here.
I said too much. We're going to get some absolute trolls.